This is Creature Kind Live Daily News. So today we're going to be going over a wide variety of different types of Jurassic dinosaurs, different types of long-necked species, as well as carnivorous theropod dinosaurs. And so, we're also live streaming on YouTube, Rumble, and Kick.
You left one out.
Oh, X. So from SmithsonianMag.com, finding Duravenator. Jaws once thought to be from Megalosaurus belong instead to this little-known species. Wow. Well, these are some very intact jaw specimens. Seems to be a picture of it, though. I hope it's not one of those instances where it was part of some laboratory that ended up being an explosion, like especially back in World War I when many fossilized specimens were destroyed. So looks like a plesiosaur of some sort. No, 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 no. Well, not by like the jaw. It's itself. Like that looks like some theropod dinosaur. Possibly even like a tyrannosaur at first glance. But looking at the skull, I just thought of like either a plesiosaur or maybe something like a megalania or Komodo dragon. But plesiosaurs have very distinct type of jaw structures, and they have very delicate and weak teeth. And it just seems to be from this drawing depiction more of something like a large reptile. However, when you're looking at the specimen itself, I'm guessing it's some sort of a tyrannosaur. Those are they're almost like, banana-like, similar to Daspletosaurus, Albertosaurus. So, tyrannosaurs existed over in central Canada during the late Cretaceous about 75 million years ago. We're back in, did it say when? No? Oh, well, it thought to have been from Megalosaurus. So, if you have been following the dinosaur alphabet series so far, you may have noticed a pattern among the first four entries. Not familiar with the dinosaur alphabet. At one time or another, all the dinosaurs I've selected so far were thought to be different animals. The horn Aguhaceratops was originally named a species of Chasmosaurus. The distinctive high spines of Beckel's spinax gave Richard Owen's Dopai Megalosaurus its hump. Sauropod Cetiosaurus was originally envisioned as a giant crocodile. Okay, hold on a second, because we're mentioning a lot of names, and let's bring up Chasmosaurus. So
Okay, I already spelled that wrong.
Chasmosaurus. So here we have a species of dinosaur that likely inhabited different parts of Montana, but has been found in certain fossil formations over in Alberta, Canada, such as the Horseshoe Canyon Formation, and as well as the Dinosaur Park Formation over in Alberta. So this was around 75 to 76 million years ago during the Campanian stage of the Cretaceous. And this animal is actually a close relative to a wide variety of different species of horned ceratopsian dinosaurs. So this doesn't consist of necessarily all of them, though, considering animals such as Centrosaurus are not closely related to Chasmosaurus, mainly because there are two distinct groups of true ceratopsians. There are the Centrosaurs and then the Chasmosaurs. Yeah, the chasmosaurs, for the most part, tend to have more of the large stereotype. In some instance, uh, I guess in a lot of instances, like a squarish sort of structured frill, or maybe rectangularish to an extent.
Okay, this is an AI picture, so
It's not bad. I'd say it's oh gosh, what is it? It's not Chasmosaurus I'm thinking of. It's that other species that was found a little while back that's closely related, I believe is a member of the Chasmosaur lineage. It has a massive frill. I mean, I think it's at least 5 feet in length. They're pushing a little over 1.7 meters. Um, but if this is that specific animal that I'm thinking of, really a pretty good reconstruction. Even the youngsters, like I'd say, when it comes to the frills of the babies, they might be a little large compared to their body size, though the horns seem to be um, pretty accurate, just not necessarily where they're positioned. I think they should be maybe a little closer to the end of the snout. And even looking at the horns of the adults, this one seems okay. I don't know, there's just something about them.
Are the horns a little small on the
It
adults?
it depends on the species of Chasmosaur that you're referring to. If you're referring to Chasmosaur specifically, then yes, the main two horns above the eye sockets are far too small in these individuals. However, there are certain species of Chasmosaur that have fairly small horns, especially the top two horns, compared to their overall skull structure and compared to other members of the Chasmosaur family. If that is the specific species I'm thinking of, the front two, I think, are a bit off. You know what the front two look like? They almost appear to be similar to the bone structures of certain species of theropod dinosaurs just above their eyes. Like, this is almost similar to
What's the bad dinosaur in Dinosaur?
Carnotaurus.
Yeah, that's what it was I was thinking when I'm looking at its around its eyes.
Carnotaurus is quite distinct horn structures compared to its overall head
I know,
structure.
but I was looking here.
Yeah, I wouldn't compare it to a Carnotaur. I'd compare it to not in necessarily maybe certain Jurassic theropods, but definitely maybe something like a Gorgosaurus, though there could be, which is a late Tyrannosaur that hunted Chasmosaurus during the late Cretaceous. There could be certain late Jurassic theropods that might have a somewhat similar structure. Not necessarily the Torvosaurs, which is a member of the Megalosaur family, but possibly certain members of Allosauridae. I do like also the overall ecosystem landscape background. I mean, it's showing almost like they're moving through, like a large trail that probably would be a natural game trail. So you'd have probably different species of hadrosaurs, also herds of them, other species of ceratopsians, and even the larger theropods roaming through this area. The ferns, just the overall conifer landscape, it looks good. Even though you might have like certain species here that probably wouldn't have evolved yet, they would be quite closely related. But it does look pretty realistic. Just also how the mud's moving, the water dripping. Oh, this Chasmosaur, there are also certain species that have um, different types of horns that would curve backwards towards their frills, and then some that would point a bit towards the front, and some somewhat straight up in the air. So it would differ depending on the species. This does look close to a Chasmosaur. This seems to be a picture probably depicted like back in the late 1980s or maybe the early 1990s. The hands or the forelegs are a bit off. These two fingers towards the side are basically the pinky and the ring finger should be blunt and not be clawed. But besides that, it's not a bad Chasmosaur. I think the chasmosaurs do have a bit of an odd body structure, even when you go into the larger species. Putting aside Triceratops, so Triceratops was under a lot of reconstruction or constant remodeling during the late 1800s, as well as throughout the um, 20th century or the 1900s. So it's only until fairly recently where Triceratops seems to have quite a um, I guess just an overall matching stature. Whereas other Chasmosaurs, it's still a bit like it seems questionable into how they would have stood, considering they many of them have very long hind limbs compared to their body size. Which in certain other types of herbivorous dinosaurs, especially the long necked sauropods, You have certain individuals where the forelegs are much longer than the hind legs, but this is just a very odd trait. Actually, it is a bit noticeable in the stegosaurs, where the hind limbs are longer. So I guess we can go back to the article.
Wanna get rid of them?
Yeah. Oh, wait, it mentioned other animals. Okay, let's see who also showed up. Okay, Beckel's spinax. Let's take a look at him. If this is who I think it's referring to. Give Richard. Yeah, Richard Owen was specifically the paleontologist back in the 1800s that came up with the word dinosaur in the 1840s, which is Greek for terrible lizard. Now, technically, Megalosaurus was the first confirmed dinosaur to be discovered, and it was originally discovered back in the late 1670s, or I think around 1676. Not specifically by him, but by another paleontologist. So let's look up Beckel spinax.
You're
So,
breaking up consistently.
so Beklespinax.
There's a lot of different versions of this.
Oh, okay. So one of these megalosaurs. All right. So I was guessing for a little bit it might be a member of the Metracanthosaur lineage of theropods, but it seems to be almost aligning with animals like maybe Afrovenator to a certain extent, or even Acrocanthosaurus. Yeah, definitely. Oh, okay. Yeah, it wasn't hitting me. Beckel spinax. Okay, this individual. So this animal, I believe, was somewhere around, I think, 15 to 20 feet in length, or pushing somewhere between 4.5 to 6 meters, and probably weighed a little over 1,300 pounds, or maybe pushing 600
So he
kilograms.
was small.
He wasn't a very large megalosaur even for his time. And also, when referring to the megalosaurs, it is a large family of carnivorous theropods. So, the overall family is called Megalosauroideae. And it would consist of animals such as Megalosaurus, Pecalospinax, Spinosaurus, and even Torvosaurus. Sometimes people get Torvosaurus and mixed up with the Allosaurs. Whereas the Megalosauroideae lineage of dinosaurs is related to Allosauroideae. Um, it does have many members that can be mixed up with the Allosaurs. So let's
I
see.
was thinking Allosaur when I was looking at it.
Yeah, well, this animal, at least I'm looking at this reconstruction, it's being given quite robust calf and thigh muscles, though very skinny arms. Like, this is, to me, a little insane. I mean, just an overall very muscular neck. It's not exactly a lightly built skull structure. It's, people could probably mix up the horn structure with something that you would see on another species, megalosaur, or possibly even an allosaur. But looking at the jaw structure in general, this is quite distinct from the different Allosaurus species. The tail, I'm not sure if there's necessarily evidence for these types of osteoderms or protruding scales along the back of the tail. And then this elongated vertebrae, I mean, it is quite interesting. This isn't a member of the Spinosaur family, not necessarily. I don't believe, I might have to double check if it's specifically if it is a Metracanthosaur. It's just maybe far off in the lineage. But it's just quite interesting how the megalosaurs, a number of species would develop very elongated back vertebrae. Okay, let's go back to the article. It's almost like a Jurassic Spinosaur to an extent. Very different skull structure and even the arms. So let's see. The sauropod Cetiosaurus was originally envisioned as a giant crocodile, and the armored Dioplosaurus was lumped in with its cousin Euoplocephalus before being split back out again as a distinct genus. Oh, I remember that story where these two armored ankylosaurs were assumed to be the same thing, and then Dilophosaurus got its own genus. So that was good to see, and also just keep Euoplocephalus by itself. Yeah, I think let's look up Cetiosaurus. So this specific animal, or oh, okay, so Cetiosaurus. So this species of long-necked sauropod existed over in England around somewhere between 165 and 170 million years ago. It was not a member of the Diplodocomorph lineage of sauropods. It was also not a species of brachiosaur. I'm mentioning these two because these are like the top two somewhat more known groups of sauropod dinosaurs, not just in the Jurassic, but throughout the Mesozoic era in general. Many people, unless possibly they might have heard of the titanosaurs, are not familiar with these groups. But in reality, this is a member of the overall sauropodomorph lineage of dinosaurs. And so it's the family that it belonged to would branch off into the different diplodocids as well as the mamenchosaurs. And it is also related to earlier species of sauropodomorphs such as Volcanodon, which existed around 175 million years ago. So, Cetiosaurus was a very large creature for the ecosystem that inhabited.
This one looks completely different.
Yeah, I'd say that the neck is a bit skinny. I think there should be a lot more muscle on it. Maybe even increase the height of the back a bit. I think there's barely any room for the back vertebrae in this
Oh,
instance.
wait, I found a colored photo of the black and white.
Well, this is definitely an older depiction.
Oh, yeah, it's the same one.
Oh, it's just colored. Um, I mean, what is this? 1970s? Could be earlier. It's not bad. I don't mind the overall landscape. It looks like it's probably taking place during the dry season. And England during this time was a series of islands. Now, these individuals look a bit skinny, but besides that, where was I getting it? Oh, so Cetiosaurus was probably pushing somewhere around 60 feet in length and, or pushing, what's somewhere around 18 meters and maybe pushing somewhere between 12 to 15 tons. There weren't really many predators in the area that would have preyed on these species of dinosaurs. You had a wide variety of different species of megalosaurs that inhabited this part of England, or well, areas of England, around 165 million years ago, such as Streptospondylus and Eustreptospondylus, which are two completely different genre of megalosaurs that inhabited these regions, probably hunting the younger members of the Cetiosaurus species. So, this is interesting. I mean, they've got the conifers. Yeah, I like those conifers in the
Is their
background.
neck a
They have a
little
very
straight?
Jurassic Cretaceous look, huh?
Is their neck a little straight?
Um, yeah, you could say with these specific models, it seemed to be giving them a bit of a like late 1990s or early 2000s sort of horizontal
This guy's curved.
um like almost diplodocid look, despite this animal not being a diplodocid. Another, well, yeah, also the bodies look a bit out of proportion and skinny, or like somebody's just squeezing their rib cage. Okay,
Oh, I just
these
noticed that after you said it.
these pterosaurs up here. There were smaller species of pterosaurs that inhabited England during this time different species of the ramphorhynchid lineage of flying reptiles, as well as the pterodactyloids. Like pterodactylus would eventually evolve, but it's still too early for pterodactyl. Pterodactyl won't evolve until somewhere around 150 million years ago, and also in adjacent Germany. Whereas here you would have had animals such as Ramphorhynchus. So let's see. Also, I think the head of these youngsters is a bit too large compared to their body size. You should also not be seeing these extremely large toes on their front feet. Um, Also, they should be quite curved on the back feet, but really just a thumb claw. Um, I think his teeth actually don't look bad. You barely see a nostril, however. Ear seems to be okay. Eye socket. This one seems a bit drowsy. Like somebody
He's sedated.
like the crew from Prehistoric Park came over and tranquilized him. So, um, okay, well, we can get rid of these. These animals are probably having to feed on at least 4 to 500 pounds of vegetation each day,
So is this the best one?
or a little over 200 kilograms. Um,
Other than the fact he's slanted?
hmm. Well, yeah, the problem is his tail dragging on the ground and also showing all the toes on the front feet. I'd say in terms of musculature, yes. Okay, so let's see. Um, I didn't intend this trend, but it struck me when I came across one of the rejected candidates for yesterday's entry for the letter D. Had it not shared much of its history with Begal Spinax, I would have picked Duria venator. Okay, I'm not sure who else he's talking about. Also, let's pull up Dioplosaurus. So Dyoplosaurus.
Hey, they got a real one.
Oh yeah, this guy. Yeah, so Dioplosaurus is also a species of dinosaur that used to inhabit Canada, or specifically in Kylosaur, around the late Cretaceous over 73 million years ago. So
Oh,
this
okay. Why is his face so thin and this guy's face is fat?
because this is a very outdated sort of look for ankylosaurs. This is almost on pair, you could say, with something like a Gastonia. The Gastonia is a member of the Nodosaur lineage of ankylosauromorphs and not specifically an ankylosaur. It still would be off. Yeah, this is a bit better for Dioplosaurus. I mean, overall, the musculature seems to match, but they're definitely giving him a very robust neck structure, which is something you'd probably expect for the ankylosaur, especially for having the very robust head structure that is also covered in armor. And um, let's see what else. I mean, they have it where there's armor over on the forelegs towards the side, even on the upper part of the thighs. The osteoderms overall, like looking at just the overhead armor, looks pretty good. And the tail club also seems very ankylosaur-like, where it's not just this round ball, which used to be a pretty typical look for older reconstructions of ankylosaur, especially back in the 1970s, 60s, 50s, and if you travel back even further. Whereas ankylosaurs, much of the time, had a very short but wide type of a tail club. Sometimes they even had it where there were these distinct small spikes, not necessarily thagomizers like stegosaurs, but small spikes protruding from the sides of their tail club. I believe this animal probably weighed somewhere around 2 tons. Euoplocephalus, the other ankylosaur that I mentioned, was probably somewhere around 2 to 3 tons and had much longer, um, let's say, osteoderms around the or just above the um, shoulder blades. Okay, so we can get rid of these. Okay, let's go down. Megalosaurus was a mess, even though this Jurassic carnivore has been a prehistoric icon ever since it was named by William Buckland in 1824. It has been one of the most confounding of all dinosaurs. That's because generations of researchers attributed dozens of fragments and isolated bones to the dinosaur, creating a monstrous composite of animals from different places and times. Also, William Buckland is also a renowned paleontologist from England as well. But um, William Buckland also focused on a lot of Jurassic fauna or Jurassic species of dinosaur, especially the Middle Jurassic, and he also went over different Pleistocene or Ice Age mammals as well. So, especially taking a deep, in depth look at different cave hyena species, and as well, specifically cave hyenas and the species of animals that they were feeding on in the caves that they would inhabit from time to time. So, what was another thing? He would also study live spotted hyenas as well, which would, make a lot of sense. I mean, considering, it's very good to look at modern day animal behavior to give a picture as to what, not just different species of prehistoric mammals or how different species of prehistoric mammals would have behaved, but as well, even the dinosaurs. So, he'd also take a close examination at the dung as well, not just of the spotted hyenas, possibly even striped hyenas that he was analyzing in like different zoos, or I'm not sure if there were rescue centers back then, but um, also the dung that he was finding of spotted hyenas in these caves. So that's because oh, I already said that. Dinosaurs were unfamiliar animals. The name itself only coined in 1842. In 19th century or 1800s, naturalists didn't have the kind of geologic resolution their intellectual descendants rely on to properly constrain where particular species lived. Um, I'd say though, like paleontology and geology was really coming into grip, especially during the 1600s. It was just not really that well known, and becoming a bit more so in the 1700s. You did have a wide variety of scientists that were accepting of like different adaptations occurring on different animals for different ecosystems, but they were still um, not so confident when it came to the evolutionary aspect of it. And then with deeper analysis into the 1800s, that evolutionary theory that was popping up in the 1600s started becoming started just simply making more sense to a wide variety of different naturalists, especially Darwin. Though Darwin was many, it's like schools, documentaries, all these things tend to make it out like Charles Darwin was the dawn of the theory of evolution, and he was not even close to the first. Technically, you could say it probably started out with like back over or nearly 2,000 years ago with people, I think even Pliny the Elder, either a Greek or an Italian might have been one. He was looking at seashells over on the coast of Greece in an area that was not even close to the ocean. And he came up with the theory that um, the only way for all these seashells to have been here is to or is for this area to have been completely been submerged by water or the ocean itself previously in time. So, whereas you could say he wasn't necessarily taking too deep of a dive into evolution, that is practically paleontology and geology that he was taking a look or um, creating theories of.
Isn't that more of tectonic shifting?
Well, that too. Um, he might have said something about that, but um, I'd have to take a deeper look. So, yeah, that was like somewhere around first century. Anyway, let's keep going. So sometimes researchers name too many species on the basis of scrappy, non overlapping material, and other times they apply the same name ad infinitum to roughly similar fossils.
Kind of like when we're now getting footprints and they're naming dinosaurs off of footprints.
I forgot what this means, though.
What's that have to do with what I said?
I'm guessing
What you just
that's
read.
that's probably what's occurring. Now, also, like, I wasn't trashing on Darwin. I admire his theories, even when it comes to him, coming up with the evolutionary theory that humans came from monkeys, which isn't true, but that was quite a fascinating, theory just to come up with, especially for back in the 1800s. And also, he wasn't just doing research back or over in the Galapagos Islands off the coast of Ecuador. He was also doing research in different parts of Asia, I believe Madagascar. He knew of like the different areas of Africa, but I don't think he ever stepped foot on the continent. Well, not including Madagascar. Technically, Madagascar is geographically part of Africa, but it's not connected. Used to be. Okay, so like wasn't separated by oceans, what I mean. So even eventually, though, it became apparent that Megalosaurus was unstable. No one could say what the dinosaur really looked like or what bones could accurately be attributed to the predator. The situation was so bad that in 2008, oh yeah, I remember this. Okay, we're talking about what's his name? Duriavinator. Yeah, Duriavinator is a species of Megalosauroideae, related to Megalosaurus, and I believe is also found from England and lived close to the same time as Megalosaurus as well. If anything, maybe a bit later in time. A little smaller than Megalosaurus, though. Megalosaurus was somewhere around 30 feet. Actually, let's bring up a Megalosaurus, considering we keep mentioning him. So Megalosaurus. What was I getting at with that? Oh, whoa. Okay, this guy's got problems. I think it's one of those National Geographic or something related to National Geographic. You'd see these types of pictures in the sticker books that you might find in certain bookstores or maybe certain libraries, and it would be kind of annoying because even at the time you would have a feeling that this is a bit um, inaccurate and over structure because many of the dinosaurs in these types of models would be far too skinny. It's better, but it's
Well, it's an
still
AI one.
yeah, it's still
Oh,
not
wait, is it?
yeah.
No.
No, this is AI. Um,
Well, that's not what it says at the bottom, is it?
yeah, this is the same thing that pops up with the other AI pictures.
Well, that just says dinosaur pictures.
Yeah, this is let's see, the AI one.
Wait, here's a funny one.
This looks more on the line of like possibly something similar to Giganotosaurus. Still not a Giganotosaurus look. Hmm, who would that actually be? It's some early Cretaceous Carcharodontosaurid, not Carcharodontosaurus.
Here's an early one.
This Megalosaurus. Oh, yeah, this is better. Megalosaurus was quite robust, especially for its time. I'd say it was one of the apex predators and probably one of the largest predators to exist at that point. And specifically referring to theropod dinosaurs and pushing aside any large crocodilomorph species, which would somewhat approach the size of Megalosaurus. But it also the crocodilomorphs I'm thinking of lived earlier in time, and the terrestrial ones too, so only really just sticking to the land and not venturing into the water unless it had to get across some river
Here's a much older one.
or maybe wash off. Oh, yeah, these guys. Well, this isn't too old. I mean, the original Megalosaurs, um, like those specific statues over in Crystal Palace Park in London, they look completely different from dinosaurs, even in the early 1900s. You could say at the very end of the late 1800s as well. So, for the early 1900s, this really wasn't a bad megalosaurus. Actually, you could probably find this reconstruction in certain books of the 1950s, possibly a bit later in time, maybe even the 1960s. And this was Megalosaurus, very long hind limbs compared to its body size, very small forelimbs as well. There are a wide variety of different species of theropod dinosaurs, even in the Jurassic, the Triassic as well. I mean, if you look at the coelophysids, there were quite a few species. Even if you look at the smaller um, members like coelophysis itself, it didn't have very large arms. But looking at Megalosaurus is very tiny. There's not a lot that it can do with these sorts of arms. Now let's see, a very robust tail structure, a thick neck, and quite a squarish sort of a skull structure.
And this is how the internet mislabels things.
Small feet too. Yep, that. Who's that supposed to be? I'm not
It
sure if
says
this is.
Megalosaurus.
No, yeah, it's not him. Um, Yeah, this looks like somebody took an idosaur, so a group of archosauromorph reptiles from the Triassic period, mixed it with some sort of one of the more Thagomizer like stegosaurs, maybe something like a Kentrosaurus or a Miragaia. And there's almost like a bit of a ceratopsian appearance to it,
Does he have a
mainly in the
smirk on his
center.
face?
He does. He's like,
Why are those trees so small?
I mean, the horsetails that he's
I don't know. It looks like trees to me.
no, they're naturally, ferns that the different species of dinosaurs they still exist today, um, and adjacent to different wetlands. So, horsetails are just virtually a very, large group of ferns. Let's see. Let's go back to is it this? Yeah, there we go. Oh, yeah, then we have little Rhamphorhynchids. Who's this down here, though? Is that a baby or is that another,
I don't know what that is.
um,
Looks like it has
species of
hopping
theropod?
legs.
Looks like a youngster. Seems to be sitting down. We have something else over here. Who's this little guy? It's not a bird because birds haven't evolved yet. You had creatures like Archaeopteryx, but Archaeopteryx wouldn't appear on the fossil record at least for another 15 to 18 million years. This is interesting though. It's a really good picture. It's kind of in a dim sort of um misty, somewhat gloomy forest, and then you just have a healthy Megalosaurus eating. What I'm guessing is maybe a Cetiosaurus, possibly.
Looks like it'd be nice to walk through, but I wouldn't want to get eaten.
Yeah, that's the thing. Then you have this nice little creek here.
Now it's getting flooded with the blood.
Yeah, that would probably be a big problem consistently throughout the Mesozoic era, even occasionally today, especially over in Serengeti, and it's just over in the Mara River, and it's just piled with wildebeest carcasses. Zebras too. Okay, so I guess we can get rid of these. Also, I like how the arms are much more muscular on that picture too. But yeah, that this guy's got a problem. That looks nothing like a megalosaur, almost like a Monolophosaurus to an extent, which is a member of the Neotheropoda lineage of theropod dinosaurs. Eventually, though, it became apparent that Megalosaurus was unstable. Okay, so the situation was so bad that in 2008, paleontologist Roger Benson, I've heard of this, um, scientist, and colleagues stripped the name Megalosaurus from everything, saved for the fragment of jaw originally used to name the animal. So this is referring to, I think it was a Duriavinator. Duriavinator has been renamed 4 times. So it was originally found, I think, in 1882 by, I think it was William Buckland himself, and he named it species of Megalosaurus. And then later into the 1950s, I believe, they gave it another species of, they changed it to another species of Megalosaurus. 1960s, I think it was around 1964, they made another change. And then eventually in 2008, this occurred. So I also think like there was a certain German scientist, gosh, last name was Huang, Wen, Won, was a part of this change.
Sure he wasn't Chinese?
Or at least he was an analysis. No, 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 no. He was. Anyway, let's keep going. So let's see. Whether the rest of the fossils really belong to Megalosaurus remain to be seen. And as Benson demonstrated later the same year, at least one other theropod had been improperly obscured behind the famous name. I wonder who that was. In 1883, autonomous Richard Owen, okay, so the person that, or the paleontologist that invented the word dinosaur, described a partial theropod skull found on Dorset, England, as another piece of Megalosaurus bucklandi, which is named after William Buckland himself. The sharp-toothed dinosaur was only represented by parts of the upper and lower jaws, but given how little was known about Megalosaurus to start with, Owen's excitement was reasonable. Um, well, what was that? Oh, it is interesting when looking at the different jaw structures of different species of megalosaurs. Some have quite thin and narrow teeth, and then others, like I'm guessing this is the Duryavenator. This is just a very old picture of it. Have almost tyrannosaur-like teeth,
Oh, I didn't
and
even think about that.
also not even like the what was it? Abelisaurs, which I believe were members of the. Hold on a second. I got to be careful with that. Bellysaurs might actually be lineages of the Carnosaur lineage, not the Megalosaur. Though they had robust tooth structures, it was different from the Megalosaurs and the Tyrannosaurs. And the Tyrannosaurs were members of the Coelurosaur family, not the Megalosaurs. So I believe the Coelurosaurs and Megalosaurs weren't too far off in evolution. So let's go back down. Oh, okay. Where was it? Owen's assignment was reasonable. Nearly a century later, paleontologist Michael Waldman proposed that these fossils represented a previously unknown species of the dinosaur he called Megalosaurus hesperus. Hesperus sounds similar to Hesperornis. There's a number of megalosaur species. I'm trying to think who this might be named after. Other researchers weren't sure that the bones really belonged to Megalosaurus, but it wasn't until Benson's reexamination that the fossils were split out as a different dinosaur. While the dinosaur was a close cousin of Megalosaurus bucklandi, Benson was able to pick out subtle anatomical characteristics that distinguished the fragmentary skull. In Benson's analysis, what once was Megalosaurus took on a new life as Duryavenator hesperus. Oh, okay. So they actually found, I mean, for many species of dinosaurs, a decent portion of the body. And what's really important is that they have part of the skull structure and then an intact pelvis, nearly the whole thing. Yeah, a little slice over here. Parts of the hip vertebrae, a couple of tail vertebrae.
Well, why the light gray?
Um, I'm guessing it's just showing like the closest part of the bone that's adjacent to.
Well, then why
Um,
would you show this and this?
hmm.
Does it say?
Okay, so Benson's reconstruction of Megalosaurus with known elements in white and reconstructed portions in gray.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm guessing so of the ones that they found, they were able to reconstruct part of the rest of the bone.
So they already found these, and this is what they found.
Uh, that's what I'm guessing. Yeah, this dinosaur is somewhat similar to Megalosaurus. Still quite different. Megalosaurus was quite robust for its time. much more than the previous members of the Neotheropoda lineage of dinosaurs and inhabited pretty much the whole early Jurassic and even into the late Triassic period. So, pushing over 210 million years ago and thriving over 180 million years ago. Different parts of North America, Antarctica, Asia, Africa, in some instances. So, back when much of the Earth was still connected. Unfortunately, we don't know very much at all about Duryavenator. The dinosaur lived about 170 million years ago in Jurassic England and was a large carnivore of comparable size to the 20-foot plus megalosaurus. Well, Duryavenator has also been placed. Actually, let's look him up. He's much smaller than megalosaurus. So Duriavenator. Megalosaurus pushed over 30 feet in length and or around 9 meters and probably weighed somewhere between 3 to 4 tons. Duryavenator, when it came to weight, was much smaller and technically length as well. This animal was probably somewhere around 23 feet in length or pushing 7 meters. That's a large individual and probably didn't weigh much more than a ton.
Okay, these 2 look completely different.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. Um, Yeah, wow. So when looking at the fore or the arms of this specific animal, I think they're very well structured, like a decent amount of muscle, very long claws compared to many species of megalosaurs as well. This is something that you can see in certain later species of megalosaurs too. Like if you're looking at the Metrocanthosaur lineage, I believe. They also score decent length claws as well, and the Spinosaurs. Let's see. The legs, though, I would say they're a bit stocky, but I mean, they're giving him extremely large calves. Quite. I mean, I guess the thighs are probably okay. Might be a bit skinny in the core there. I think I can see his ribs. I mean, maybe the artist is just, focusing or trying to go for a little detail, so to make it a bit more maybe intimidating, somehow it's
It
in,
looks like it's a sketch.
the ribs. Or maybe they're supposed to be like the wrinkles on the skin. This is something that you would see even today on different species of reptiles, like, who specifically? Different species of iguanas, even the Komodo dragon somewhat. Iguanas, though, it's very noticeable. Let's see. Tail seems to be okay. I do like the skull structure. I mean, this does look really good.
Everybody doesn't have lips?
Oh yeah, that's unfortunate, but that's okay. I mean, besides that, oh yeah, how they also gave him that little bit of a uh, not necessarily a bell. There's a specific name for like the rooster's chin or different species of bird where there's that distinct fleshy area. Yeah, also when it comes to these osteoderms, these have been shown in a wide variety of different megalosaur reconstructions for quite some time. So I do wonder if we have found certain skin specimens that show possible evidence of these structured, elongated scales or osteoderms along their body. Okay, we can get rid of these.
I asked, in the chat what's someone's favorite dinosaur, and Akita Bear responded with Archaeopteryx.
Um, yeah, I mean, we can actually let's pull up Archaeopteryx real quick. Now, Archaeopteryx is a very small species of dinosaur. And oh, okay. So Archaeopterer.
Wait a minute, I already spelled it wrong. ARCH.
Aeo. Um PT.
I got it.
So This animal was essentially the beginning of the bird lineage or the avian lineage of dinosaurs. So every species of bird today is essentially an avian dinosaur. No, none of them evolve from large species or even the different species of raptors or dromaeosaurs. They definitely did not evolve from the allosaurs or animals like T Rex, sauropods. Um, all of those specific dinosaurs ended up dying off. Well, the Allosaurs much earlier in time, but the Tyrannosaurs, Dromaeosaurs, 66 million years ago at the end of the Cretaceous period. Though Archaeopteryx's lineage would continue to thrive into the Cenozoic era. Archaeopteryx, though, however, inhabited Germany around 152 million years ago. And then eventually, as the early Cretaceous hit around 145 million years ago, a wide range of different species of birds would have evolved. And then you would have had different families, such as the Euantiornithans, which we actually have many preserved specimens of the distinct types of feather structures that they would have had. And as well, different pigments or the color has been preserved as well.
Hey, have you seen this?
I don't think I have. Hmm. Wow. That's pretty good. I think his feathers are
Yeah,
showing up around here.
yeah, that's
Color is not something that I recall that we have found with Archaeopteryx specimens. I do believe, like we have found the preserved feathers of Archaeopteryx, but if anything, if we have found the color, I think it was a bit more dull. But it could have also simply been the sediment that it was discovered in. Also, when it comes to Archaeopteryx specifically, this animal was probably hunting different species of insect during the time, probably not going after any young species of dinosaurs, not even the hatchlings. It did not really score the sickle claws that you would see in different species of raptors or dromaeosaurs.
that face structure doesn't look right to me based on the fossil I'm looking at.
Yeah, this is a bit off of an Archaeopteryx. This is a bit closer. Let's see what else.
That
Yes,
almost looks a little too bird-like.
I mean, um,
Well, compared to when we're looking at that,
oh, maybe specifically just the feathers weren't preserved in these different areas?
the the feathers. No, I was referring to the
Oh, you're just referring to
how
the
narrow the face is.
yeah, the skull structure. Well, that also is an earlier depiction.
Well, it came from
Like,
the same thing. Wait,
it could still simply be like a picture from 19
no, it's
early 2000s or 1990s. Or somebody just decided to have more create more of a, older sort of a look. Maybe it hunted certain smaller, like, tiny fish species. But it was mostly just going after different likely going after different species of insects. So let's head back to the article, back to, this discovery. So the dinosaur lived about 170 million years ago in Jurassic England. It was a large carnivore of comparable size to the 20-foot plus megalosaurus, technically over 30 feet or 9 meters. But that's where the evidence gives out. Perhaps other Durievinator specimens are resting in museum collections. But until the discovery of a nearly complete skeleton allows paleontologists to connect the jaws to a body, the dinosaur will be an enigma. But here, Megalosaurus itself gives us reason to hope. The Durievinator paper was part of Benson's effort to rehabilitate Megalosaurus. And in 2010, he published a refined, revised reconstruction of the dinosaur skeleton based on material collected from Stonesfield, Oxfordshire, the locality where the original jaw came from. Perhaps with a little detective work in the lab and in the field, paleontologists might also be able to fill out the form of Durievinator and other Middle Jurassic mysteries. Okay, so yeah, that was fun to go over. We're gonna check out a um Another article based on sauropod after we take a 2-minute break. We'll be right back. So, let's take a look at a very recent discovery. So, from Sci News, new species of sauropod dinosaur identified in museum drawer. Okay, another one of these. Feels like it's been a while since we've talked about one that was found out in the field, especially over in North America. Um, a fossil brain case and partial skull roof from Carnegie Museum of Natural History has been reassessed and reclassified, giving rise to a new genus and species of dicryosaurid sauropod dinosaur, Athenar bermani. Hmm, Okay, well, looking at these distinct, let's see, holotypic brain case of Athenar bermani. So Athenar bermani lived in what is now Utah, the United States, during the late Jurassic, 151 to 150 million years ago.
Wow, they've got that number down.
Yeah, so when it comes to dicryosaurids, many species tend to be really renowned during the early Cretaceous, so somewhere between 100 million to 145 million years ago. Not necessarily the late Jurassic. They did exist back in the late Jurassic, but they are not usually mentioned. Like, they're much, less common. The dinosaur's remains, designated as the Carnegie Museum specimen 26552, were originally collected in 1913 in rocks belonging to the Morrison Formation in Carnegie Quarry at Dinosaur National Monument. Whoa, okay, so this is over in the protected area over in northwestern Colorado. Okay. Now, the Morrison Formation covers vast areas of different parts of Utah, New Mexico, Wyoming, Colorado, Montana. I think parts of South Dakota as well. Actually, let's look up a species from Africa that existed during the early Cretaceous, Nigersaurus. So Nigersaurus.
Okay, this guy has a funny face.
He's sort of known as the weed eater or the lawnmower of sauropods, even though you would probably think that, or it would make more sense for the larger species to maybe fit this role or fit with this title a bit better because just how much more food they would need. Considering Nigersaurus wasn't necessarily a large species, this animal inhabited the Sahara Desert, or well, where the Sahara Desert is today, over in Africa, in the southern regions. So, like just north of Nigeria, around 113 million years ago. So this animal possibly coexisted with Spinosaurs such as Suchomimus and certain other carcharodontsaurid species. I will say though, in this image, the babies I think are a bit off.
Well, they look
I
happy.
I think their neck structure is a bit too short and thick, and also their heads are huge. And why are they also on their hind legs? Like, they're going from a sauropodomorph or a plateosauromorph to a sauropod. That's a bit odd. But yeah, they do seem quite cheerful. Also, Nigersaurus, like many species of sauropods, probably likely lived in herds. Considering we have also found the footprints of different species of sauropod dinosaurs, some which it's very likely we can identify the specific sauropod that created them, like certain trackways of Apatosaurus or Brontosaurus individuals. The question is, what specific species of those genre that they were created by? But Nigerosaurus, which existed back when Niger wasn't just like a barren desert, but was covered by different floodplains or a vast array of conifer forests. So you would have had these 35-foot to 40-foot long animals, or somewhere between 11 to 12-meter diplodocids, or you could say sauropodomorphs, essentially, that roam the landscape. And these were some of the more common, probably, species of sauropods in the area. You would have had larger species over in North Africa that belonged to a different group that could reach over 75 feet in length or pushing well over 22 meters and probably weighed up to somewhere around 35 tons. But this animal probably didn't reach much more than 5 to 6 tons, so it's probably, a decent weight range for this animal. Oh, yeah, this is a more, well-renowned illustration of Nigersaurus. So, it tends to be seen as having its head a bit, low to the ground, which is quite interesting. That tends to be quite typical for many species of Dicryosaurid sauropod. Also depicting it with the osteoderms all along its back, which is possible. I think we have found Dicryosaur skin fragments. I'm just not sure whether or not specifically Nigersaurus. Okay, so let's see. Also, the feet look really good. The claws are curved. The feet also look
How
pretty
can you
well.
see that?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Right
but
here.
I just can't see it.
Well, I think I've also looked at the picture a number of times. Oh, yeah, also when it comes to the nostrils over at the top of the skull. I do like the overall look. These guys are almost like the hadrosaurs of the sauropod lineage. More specifically, like the edmontosaurs to an extent. You could even put them in with like other saurolophid species like Parasaurolophus. I just like the overall head structure. Probably just delicately going down, stripping off different species of ferns, maybe going after different cycads or ginkgo trees, probably even feeding on different species of early flowers during Cretaceous Africa, or in Cretaceous Africa. Okay, well, we can get rid of these. Nigersaurus is, though, probably not the most famous species of dicryosaur sauropod. though that probably belongs to animals such as a Margosaurus, which have immense neck vertebrae. So until now, the specimen was assigned to a genus of sauropod dinosaurs called Diplodocus. Carnegie Museum of Natural History houses some of the most important specimens for our understanding of Diplodocus sauropod cranial anatomy. So, whenever it's mentioning cranial, it's referring to um, especially like the overall head structure. Cervical would be the neck vertebrae. Um, okay. This makes sense for the Carnegie Museum because Diplodocus, like the most famous species of Diplodocus, is Diplodocus carnegie. So let's see. Found sometime in the 1870s, I think. Dr. John Whitlock in Colorado. I think just shortly, like just outside of Denver. So Dr. John Whitlock, a researcher at Mount Aloysius College and Carnegie Museum of Natural History. Our one specimen CM26552 is often overlooked in favor of more complete skulls, but bears an outsized historical importance as this specimen formed the basis for the modern description of brain case anatomy for Diplodocus as a genus. Well, I think it's because with many species of sauropod dinosaurs, there's a large number because sauropods probably one of the largest groups of herbivorous dinosaurs that have been discovered, at least when it comes to the number of species that have been named. A number of them, there either has not been a skull that has been discovered, or it's just base fragments. So this isn't necessarily too surprising, but it is quite. I think what's the shock is that it was just suddenly that this occurred. Consisting, it's was what over 110 years since it's been discovered. Now, let's see. In light of several decades of new discoveries since the original description, 1978. So it's also referring to the description, not necessarily the discovery back in 1913. We reevaluate the anatomy and taxonomic relationships of this specimen. So the new analysis shows that the features of CM26552 align better with a different group of sauropods, the Dicryosauridae. So probably what happened was it went from being a member of Diplodocidae, which is a member of the Diplodocioideae lineage of sauropods, and more specifically, it's been changed to Dicryosauridae, which is a group of Diplodocioideae. It just would continue in, like, smaller species of sauropod into the, Cretaceous. Technically, Diplodocus would too, but just stay in larger sizes. Trying to think of another species of dinosaur to bring up. You know what? I know what to do. Let's look up Allosaurus himidensis. So Allasaurus, and we're going to put in the species too. So space JIM.
Wait, Jimadensi?
Should be. I thought it ended in S. Well, this Allosaurus that I'm mentioning, so Allosaurus in general is um, a species of theropod. Well, it's a genus of theropod dinosaur from the late Jurassic. So existing in different parts of North America, Europe, possibly into Africa around 150 million years ago. And this animal, on average, well, it would also differ on the species, but usually reach somewhere around 9 meters or around 30 feet in length. And depending on the species, could reach over 3 tons. Now,
Well, that
um,
looks pretty small.
Allosaurus hemidensis is, I believe, from was it Wyoming? Well, it likely thrived throughout different areas of Utah, Colorado, And this animal was extremely lightly built compared to its other Allosaurus counterparts. Looking at the skull structure of this specific carnivore, it's extremely brittle for some reason. It's a huge question as to why this would have occurred, considering Allosaurus species in general did not have very robust jaw structures, though they had very sharp teeth compared to many species of large carnivorous dinosaurs. Not necessarily the sharpest of any genre, but they were in the top few.
This was made in Blender.
That's pretty good. Um, yeah, interesting. Like, you could have had it where different Allosaur individuals could have um simply gone to conflict, especially during the dry season when maybe they established a territory in certain areas and the herds moved and they're having to rely on fewer food sources. And occasionally they might even go after each other. So let's see. Yeah, this I wouldn't say this is necessarily Allosaurus hemadensis, but it is interesting. You're having it where the different pterodactyloids are, I guess, being scared in this instance. But this seems to be possibly Allosaurus fragilis itself. Though the different Allosaurus species did have different types of skull structures. What I also mean by that is not just how specifically like thin or brittle that they were, but their horn structures were also a bit distinct from each other. Ooh, I do like this picture. Yeah, I mean, this is certainly possible. He's not necessarily jumping on the sauropod. What is this, like a thin Camarasaurus? This is from a little while back. I don't know if this is maybe early 2000s. But some very I'd say these guys are a bit too thin, but, maybe they just haven't eaten in a while. But it's very likely they might have hunted, like, younger individuals or, like, a mid-sized Camarasaurus. Camarasaurus was a species of sauropod that existed in Colorado, Utah, around 152 million years ago during the late Jurassic. And it does look like this animal, like I think we've even found bite marks on the bones of Camarasaurus in certain fossil quarries of Wyoming that indicate animals like Allosaurus were feeding on it. And also, despite Allosaurus usually being depicted as having a weak overall jaw structure, it does seem that they still came into contact with bone in many instances of feeding. Okay, let's see. I'm trying to think. Let's see who else. Let's just go back to the article. Okay, so based on this, we assign CM26552 to the new genus Athenar with the specific epithet Burmani. The study also shows that Athenar burmani is closely related to the Dicryosaur genus Suacia. Okay, I've heard of this specific individual. Considering CM26552 as a new dicryosaurid species enhances the knowledge of the diversity of this family in the Morrison Formation and in North America more generally, expanding the historically underestimated sauropod diversity of the unit. Oh, that's it. Um, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's good to see that we have another species of dicryosaurid in the Morrison, considering they're not very common in that area. It tends to be different members of Diplodocidae in general, like specifically Diplodocus itself. Another large animal. Actually, maybe we can take a look at this individual, Barosaurus. There is also Supasaurus too, but sticking with Barosaurus, Barosaurus. Let's see, who else? There was also another species of Supersaurus that was discovered in Wyoming, but it was changed to another genus species in recent times. Who's another more pronounced? Oh, yeah, Diplodocid. Technically, different species of Apatosaurus and Brontosaurus are also different members of the Diplodocid lineage of sauropods. So let's see. Okay, so Barosaurus. Wow. All right, they definitely gave an immense um overall just length reconstruction for this individual. Barosaurus could reach well over 90 to 100 feet in length. We're pushing, geez, from around 28 to 30 meters and probably weighed somewhere between 40 to 45 tons.
Oh, you gotta see the this guy looks like he hasn't stopped eating in his entire life.
This is a bit more of
What's with
a, yeah, oh,
hold on.
okay, that tail though. Because I was thinking, all right, well, you have had a wide range of different sauropod reconstructions in recent times with more pronounced neck structure. But
What's with the tail?
yeah, the tail, even the legs to an extent,
The tail looks like a oh my god, yeah, I didn't even realize that.
like
But the
something that you saw bush leaves with or bush branches.
yeah, I
I
was
don't
thinking
know
it
what
looks
that is.
like a leaf of some sort.
Or he decided to become like part nodosaur or idosaur. Anyway,
But that neck, I mean, what?
oh yeah, Othniel Charles Marsh also named this specific animal. Famous paleontologist from the 1800s, also one of the two paleontologists that were part of the Bone Wars, him and Edward Drinker Cope. So, let's see. What was another thing? Okay, so when it comes to Barosaurus, it's very possible that this animal had the ability to rear up on its hind legs and
Not
probably to
that
even,
last one.
yeah, that guy was, yeah, that was completely out of weight proportion. But let's see. Oh yeah, also when it comes to these animals and their extremely long tails, I mean, every single type of carnivore in the area, even the larger Torvosaur or megalosaurs, would have had to be quite careful. They're likely not going after an adult, though. They're going to be preying on maybe younger subadults and juveniles, the hatchlings. There were different members of the Ceratosaur group that also coexisted with Barosaurus, such as Ceratosaurus itself, probably also going after other species of Diplodocid within the region. You also had the different types of Brachiosaurs too, such as Brachiosaurus itself over in Colorado. This was also before the Rocky Mountains would form as well. I think it's just many people tend to assume that the Rocky Mountains have been here for hundreds of millions of years, and that is not true. They really didn't start forming until maybe the late Cretaceous around 80 million years ago. So at this point, Colorado was flat, like the eastern part of the state, but much more abundant in floodplains and different conifer forests. Okay, so thanks for joining and happy International Diplodocid Day. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guy Live Daily News. We are streaming on YouTube, Kick, and Rumble. And remember, and X. And remember that nothing is better than all animals all the time.